It's time yet again to talk about Bloodlines 2. Now, am I talking about it because there's been a substantial new update? Have the devs finally come out with new gameplay footage? Maybe it eases all of our concerns. It looks incredible. We've got renewed confidence in this sequel. Sadly, no. There has been an update, but it's more bad news, which in this case is predictable news. There's very little good news that has ever come out about Bloodlines 2, at least since Hardsuit Labs were taken off the project. It's basically just been 18 months of slowly hitting rock bottom. But to give a super quick recap, because I feel like there's been a lot of people who understandably, they saw the gameplay reveal in January. They might have even been hyped for that. They finally were going to see what Bloodlines 2 looks like under the Chinese rune, the new dev, what's it going to be, what are they going to show off. They saw it, fell asleep extremely quickly, and now they're like, it's August now, it's been like 7-8 months, what is going on with this game? I've heard nothing else about it. Well, all that's really happened in the last 8 months, no new footage, nothing substantial has come out. There's been some layoffs at the developer, that happened recently, but aside from that, it's literally been development diaries. And if you don't know what that is, it's just text on their website, text on Steam. A dev writes out how they do their job, and that's about it. They're really boring. Don't even bother to go through them. There's been like 15 or something. I think they're coming up to the 15th. And just about every one of these, you will be thinking, please, no more of these. These are insanely boring. I think there was actually evidence that the devs were even using ChatGPT to write half of them. You just get the feeling that Friday afternoon, one of the devs, it's their turn to write the next diary, maybe the artist, maybe a level designer, and they're like, shit, I've got to write this, I want to go home, just ChatGPT, write it up for me, fuck the fans, we won't give them anything substantial, just get that out so I can move on. You can just feel that none of the devs actually care about these diaries. Maybe Paradox said, you've got to do this, you've got to do some sort of marketing over the next 12 months before it comes out. Remember, this game is meant to come out at the end of this year, so it seems like an obligation. That's been the marketing for like 8 months. These diaries, and the reason I'm talking about that is basically the update. The Chinese room, the devs, they've released a new screenshot on Steam, which is an exciting roadmap for the next 3 development diaries that are coming. Now, if that's all I thought about this news, that we're getting some diaries, I wouldn't talk about it, but there was something about them posting this which I find deeply troubling. If you've been concerned about the game, I'd be even more concerned than ever now, because it's all very weird. This picture they posted, it lists that August 14th, we get the Dialogue Choice System Development Diary. Now, that's not going to be an in-depth discussion or video or anything on how the dialogue choices work. It's going to be someone just babbling on about how they created a system. And they're going to talk about it really generically. It's not going to go into detail at all. I mean, isn't it like the Fallout 4 dialogue wheel anyway, like Mass Effect or something, where you just pick like one word from a little circle? It's not like it tells you the full sentences of what you're going to say so you can really think about your dialogue choice. You go in blind, you pick an option, what the character says, it's nothing like what you thought it was going to be because of this stupid wheel. So dialogue choice 1, then a couple of weeks later, we get some stuff about the Camarilla, what's going on there. Finally, September 11th, the Anarchs. So we get about 6 weeks worth of development diaries, and they've given us this roadmap. The reason it's concerning is I don't think we're going to get any other marketing within that time period. The next 6 weeks, I highly doubt there's going to be any more videos or even just GIFs, because remember that some of the clan reveals, we didn't even get a full video. We got like 3 frames, a GIF, and that was literally it. I don't even think we're going to get those. It's 3 text posts. And remember, the game is coming out. It's meant to come out on December the 20th or before. It's coming in less than like 5 months or something now. Time certainly flies. It gets very scary as you get older, but 6 weeks worth of dev diaries, no substantial marketing updates for the game, and what it's basically saying is there'll be about 2.5 months if, as scheduled, the game comes out in December or something, 2.5 months of a window of maybe actually getting real gameplay or something to sell literally anyone on this game. It's so weird because this is a game where it feels like they have to generate excitement right now. There's zero positive in waiting, doing more diaries, and maybe releasing videos 3 or 4 weeks at launch. They're on the back foot. They're at rock bottom in terms of hype. They have to try and get at least someone interested in purchasing. It feels like anyone who has Bloodlines 2 wishlisted, it's by accident. They wishlisted it like 6 years ago when it was Hardsuit Labs. They forgot to click the unwishlist button. That's the only reason anyone might be purchasing this game. If they pre-ordered it, that's a mistake as well. Every dollar, every cent that they get for this is basically a mistake. And when I really think about it, like, there's some games that people haven't been excited for, like look forward to playing. You think of Lord of the Rings Gollum or that King Kong game from a while back. It's like there was at least comedic value there. Like Gollum looks so stupid, underdeveloped. The team behind it, they made nothing like that before. They used to make point and clicks, and what are they doing now? They've been forced to make some weird stealth game that makes no sense. Like all of the interesting Lord of the Rings scenarios that you could conceive, that's what they came up with. But they all had sort of some comedic value. A lot of the bombs over the last year or two, they've been kind of funny, but Bloodlines 2 even let me down there. When I saw the gameplay reveal, that just killed it for me. I was like, I'm not even excited to laugh at this anymore. It's apathy at this point. I feel like it's apathy across the board. You look, for instance, at Steam, the comments about this Dev Diary update, and at this point, it's about what you would expect. There's 42 comments in about 24 hours or something. Very little interest. And out of those 42 comments, I found like one positive comment, and I mean, the enthusiasm is contagious. What have we got? Cannot wait, excited. That's the only positive one. Everything else overwhelmingly negative. Let's look here. It isn't too late to cancel the game. Either bring back Hardsuit Labs version or just cancel it. This is the biggest massacre of a video game in history. And I think the reason the comedy's kind of lost with this compared to a Gollum or a King Kong or even that Saints Row reboot or whatever it might have been, it's that the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, it's so beloved, and there was just that little bit of hope that we might get something along those lines. Maybe not as good, but just something to whet our appetites with, maybe until something better comes along. That's kind of what the Hardsuit Lab ones felt like. I don't think anyone expected it to be incredible, and despite people getting some nostalgia for it after the fact, in hindsight, they've sort of thought, oh, why can't they bring that back? Because no one was that interested at the time. It was looking a bit mixed, even with Brian Mitsoda on board. But people thought maybe the story or something. There was Chris Avallone on board as well. Chris, Brian, maybe working together. There could be at least a solid story in there, maybe some decent quests. Now it's just like, I mean, the gameplay reveal, it was Dishonored Light or something. That still seems to be what it's going for. Even when I've tried to be a little bit positive in the last 8 months or so, I've tried to be a little bit positive. It's basically just been with maybe the level design. I saw, and this could be copium, but in some of the Dev Diaries, there were little screenshots where they showed the level design. Don't get too excited, don't look at those diaries, because when I say they show the level design, it's squiggly lines that they draw to say, like, here's what we want the level design to be. So have they even made it? Like, why are you showing us lines that you're drawing that look like an internal document? Surely some footage of walking around a hub, or at least going through a level. They showed us one level in the gameplay reveal, in the initial one, over and over and over and again. That's basically it. I just don't think that they've developed many of these levels at all. It still feels like a pipe dream, like they're still conceiving things and that they're getting basically nowhere. It's meant to come out in December. And one of the reasons I still talk about this game, because if it comes out this year, there's no chance it can be good. And I just implore Paradox, if you don't want to destroy what is left of the Bloodlines name, you have to delay this. Please. This IP, and I don't really just mean Vampire the Masquerade, I really mean the Bloodlines name. If you just made a random Masquerade game, no one would really care about this. It'd be like Swan Song and everything else. It'd be whatever, another piece of crap that we're not really that interested in. But when you use that Bloodlines name, that's where any of this interest comes from. I certainly wouldn't be talking about this if there was no Bloodlines name involved. So just try and salvage that name. There's still so many RPG fans who believe in that name. They love the original and they just want something along those lines. Please delay this. If it was any other game, If I saw this development diary roadmap, I'd just say no brainer, this is going to get delayed until next year sometime. But I just worry because Paradox made it clear when they took development away from Hardsuit Labs, gave it to the Chinese room, it was very, very clear that it was going to be about how can we get this out in the shortest time possible with spending the least amount of money as possible. It's a horrible way to go about it because you're basically just saying, release a piece of shit, we don't care. Just get this out of our pipeline so we can move on. And to treat the Bloodlines name like that, geez, why did you buy this, Paradox? They didn't invent Vampire the Masquerade, they bought Vampire the Masquerade, and this is what they're doing with it, just releasing some bargain bin fodder that's barely going to be finished. I hope they delay this, I'm just not sure they will. And with what they're doing with these diaries, no way it's anywhere near finished. It's going to be half-baked, it's barely going to be an RPG at all. If you don't believe me at this point, let's look at LinkedIn super quickly. This person, Aaron LeBray, experienced narrative designer and writer on Bloodlines 2. They fired him, along with a number of other people a few weeks ago, but then, without going through the whole post, they brought him back to the team. So that doesn't make sense, because if they fired those people for what would be an understandable reason, they fired them because the writing was done, now they're just bug fixing on Bloodlines 2 and they're getting it out. But they fired these people, but then brought this person back onto the team. So they obviously didn't fire people because their work was done, there was no more writing to do because they're in the polished stage or whatever. That is normal, it happens with other games. People get let go at the end of dev because they don't need writers and so on when you're just fixing bugs. But they bring him back, why? If they brought him back, there's obviously still work to be done, and he mentions in his post working on making Bloodlines 2 with characters and moments that I love. So it's not like he's working on a potential sequel. That's never going to happen. This game's going to be a huge flop. Maybe if I'm puffing copium, the DLC expansions that supposedly they are going to make, because they still have to honor pre-orders from like 5 years ago for expansions. For a game that's been in development hell for this long, how the fuck were they selling expansions? It makes it look like even more of a joke. I don't really know why they brought him back, but if you've lost confidence, this just adds to that even more. It's like they seem disorganized, firing people, bringing them back on a couple of weeks later. What is there? It's just a massive mess. And honestly, when I think back, I started talking about Bloodlines 2 in the first place because I felt like someone had to say something. You had these Vampire the Masquerade influencers sort of artificially hyping up enthusiasm. This is back like years ago. You had some of the mainstream gaming outlets trying to act like it was all looking great. You could see from a mile away there was trouble. It looked like rubbish, and I felt like someone had to say that, and just sort of common sense, this looks like shit. People trying to get excited, come on. This was well before the Chinese room stuff. Like anything I previously said bad about it, it's 15 times worse now. It's embarrassing, and I almost want to find the positives, because it's not that fun if everyone hates it and everyone can see the car crash, because what are we really getting from that? I hope there's some sort of redemption here. Like, again, I don't think it's going to be any decent RPG. If it could be like a Dishonored Light, maybe something can be salvaged. It's not a huge disaster. But really, all I can say is, Paradox, please delay this late into 2025. Not a month or two. That's not going to make any difference. It needs way more time in the oven for me to have any hope. And the only other thing is, if I was really coping, I have read some things where they say Paradox do this a lot, where they only do Dev Diaries for their strategy games. They never show a whole bunch of gameplay. Maybe there's some truth to that, but if this was a surprise, if there's a great game here and they've just been hiding it, like, what are you doing? The whole marketing department has to be fired if that's the case, because that would be the true embarrassment if there was actually a good game here. That would be biggest surprise of the year. I don't think it's going to happen, but we will wait and see. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.